think it was Lama Zopa, who was given a gold watch by one of the students during an interview, and a couple of students later, another student walked out with a watch around his wrist. Rinpoche had just taken it off and given it to the next student. He didn't need it. And that's the kind of teacher, of course, Lama Zopa being a great teacher, as well as Lama Yeshe, his associate. A teacher enjoys helping others. When you look at the teachers, most of the masters really live to teach, live to help. And you can see that. They're tireless, they work hard, they work long hours, and are happy about it. If a teacher wearies, needs to get away a lot, not available a lot, well, you know. And doesn't tire explaining a point over and over. You know, the teacher, especially, well, for example, if you listen to some of the TED Talks by Sogyal Rinpoche, or if you read his book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, you notice that, as any good teacher does, he repeats certain key concepts over and over and over. They just get hammered into your head. After you study with him for a few years, these things are in there. And of course, your part is to practice. There isn't that much, you know, new intellectual flashy after the first year, 2 or 3. There's a lot to study, but after that, you know, the teacher again repeats the same thing. And if you ask, it will repeat it again. Won't put you down. You know, if you find a teacher puts the students down a lot, again, for me personally, walk away. And that's why we need to test the teacher before we commit ourselves to them. It's kind of like dating, engagement, and marriage. You don't marry somebody right away. Of course, some people have, but reasonably you check them out, see what it's like to live with them for a while around their circle. Now, I would say there's certain things that you can do. So the second part of this talk has to do, you know, we just talked about some of the characteristics we look for in a master. Now we're going to talk about things that you can do reasonably to help yourself and help your teacher develop a relationship. Explore this relationship for you. Now, first of all, of course, you can read some of the writings. There are also transcripts available often of talks by the teacher. This is an easy way at home to begin to sense whether the concepts that are being put across are sensible to you. Do they make sense? Is the teacher a clear, lucid person that can explain things clearly? Is it enjoyable to listen to the talks for the most part? And do they again conform to classical teachers as you know them? Then, listening to recorded talks, this is extremely helpful. Why? Because you can, you know, the printed word will never convey the nuances of how the teacher talks. If there are transcripts of talks that you're reading, they're often edited for clarity. So listening to a live teacher is extremely beneficial. Now, there are certain teachers that make this a little easier. For example, Sogyal Rinpoche, there's lots of talks by him. Other teachers, maybe not so much, but in the internet too, you can find different sources. You just do a Google search of a certain teacher's name, and you may find sources of recordings of that teacher. That's extremely important and helpful. Then you might decide to attend one or more seminars. Weekend seminar, a week-long seminar. Now, it's a matter of how limited you are by your income, your ability to pay, your time, and your job. Most centers, most teachers have provisions for scholarships or work scholarships, so you can apply to work to help set up a seminar, and that will pay for part or all of your stay. And that's a fine way, in fact, a better way to attend a seminar. I think it's better than just to go as just for money. So there should be opportunities, and that's another thing to consider. The organization should allow opportunities for individuals who don't have a lot of money. An organization that strictly requires money, walk away. Even if you're shy, try to talk directly to the master for a few minutes At the end of the seminar, during the question and answer period, this will give you a sense of how the teacher interacts with you. And be careful, because the first time you talk to a teacher, the second time you may not get the complete flavor of how they talk to you. But it's important to see how they strike you, how do they answer your questions. Talk to students and individuals who've been students for a while. There's two extremes. One group will idealize the master, that nothing the master can do is wrong. Everything the master does for a good reason. If he's walking down the street and spits in the sidewalk, oh, that's a lesson, he's trying to teach us whatever. Well, maybe not. But it's important, because other students or other people, or perhaps former students, will demonize the master. They'll tell you everything that the master's gone wrong, how he's abused people. You have to investigate all this for yourself. Make sure you look into claims of abuse, whether it's financial, sexual. Reassure yourself that this is not so, because these are very negative signs, and there have been so-called masters who have done all these things. And some that have fallen into, for example, sexual abuse was a bigger problem, say, 10, 20 years ago. Will reform. So that's important. Do an internet search, especially these days. Now you can check who the master's teachers are. In Tibet, of course, you knew people's lineages. It's very easy to check on a master. At the beginning here in the United States, it was impossible and very difficult to check. There were charlatans who claimed to be masters, but you're a master. What is your lineage? Generally, you're going to find the Nyingma or the Kagyu, the two more practice-oriented sects, the Shakya behind, and the Gelugpa, and wonderful sect. His Holiness the Dalai Lama belongs to the Gelug. They tend to be more intellectual. They also describe, the wisdom mind as emptiness in a fashion that sounds, I think, nihilistic to most Westerners. In other words, they emphasize what Buddha mind is not, almost in a way that describes it as nothing, and it is not nothing, obviously. It bears wisdom and is the creator of the world. So that's important to check. I suggest you check Nyingma and Kagyu first, frankly. Become clear about the requirements to become a student of this master. So one teacher at least wrote a long, 2-3 page description of what is required to become a student, and that was helpful. It was a somewhat harsh document, I think, for a beginner, but it gave you a good feel for that. Certain groups with certain membership, I think, you can be in the periphery, hang out. You can join one of the Rigpa local groups. You could move to California or to France to Lerab Ling. So there's many different levels of involvement. So that's important to know, so you know where you fit, where you belong. Also what teachings you can get. And again, make sure that the teachings that are presented, no matter what format, it's not so much the format, but the content, that these teachings accord with the classical, true, authentic Buddhist teachings. You may not be completely in a position to assess that, but from what you've read in other sources, from established masters, compare. If they come up with something outlandish nobody ever talked about in Buddhism, what is that about? So, do that. I think that's it. I know that's it from my outline. So, pretty common sense. It is important to have a relationship with a master, especially in the beginning. So I hope this has been helpful, and that you do consider at some point exploring joining a group for support in meditation, getting to know, and finally committing to a master. That's the best way to bring yourself to fruition, the fruit of the path, which is the ripening of the wisdom mind. All right. Good luck to you in your search. And again, like I said, if you need to find all the sections of this list, go to the subscribe, no, the other way, subscribe button up there. Alright? Talk to you later.